It's crazy to think that I've been a part of this community for almost a decade now. With that being said, let's take a look at DS2. The original Dark Souls 2 came out on March 11th, 2014. Scholar of the First Sin came out on April 1st, 2015. Even though both games came out more than 5 years ago, it surprises me how much misinformation or lack of information there is in the community. This video, we will be taking a look at the status effect Bleed, a status effect that mainly gets overlooked due to several reasons. One being that when you infuse a weapon with a bleed stone or gem, depending on the game, will lower the weapon's damage output but increase the bleed buildup. Second reason would be because there's a lot of PvE that just aren't affected by status effects at all. In terms of PvP, many players, specifically duelists, will flat out tell you bleed is bad. This statement I agree with. Bleed doesn't shine in a 1v1 honor, no healing duelist scenario. Simply because with a status effect build, you have to be aggressive to apply pressure to proc the status effect. Also, at any point in time, your opponent can use a consumable item to reduce the status effect's effectiveness or just completely nullify it. At that point, it's just better to go for high damage output to end fights quickly. Bleed is just bad. Don't use it. Unless...
Gave you too much, now I'm swallowed. Now I'm the fool while you're breaking rules. Dangerous path that I follow. Oh, go on, just do what you do. And it hurts as I bleed for you, cry for you. Oh, let me bleed. As I bleed for you, cry for you. Oh, let me bleed. Let me
Invasions are a different story. There's so many variables and randomness that a bleed build or any kind of off-meta type of setup can shine. During invasions, there are no rules, meaning any form of healing items is permitted on both sides of the engagement. With a status effect build, you can apply a status effect multiple times depending on your build and playstyle. When a status is procced, especially bleed, that's when you apply as much pressure as you can. I'll go into detail as to why you want to do this. So I hope I've piqued your interest, but some of you may be asking, how do you know when you've procced bleed on DS2? On Dark Souls 3, it's very noticeable when you proc bleed with the loud burst popping sound followed by blood spewing from your opponent, as well as the 15% HP damage plus an additional 50 to 200 flat damage to their health bar. Dark Souls 2's bleed proc is much different than 3's. Here's how you know when you proc bleed on DS2. Your opponent will have a red hue or aura around them, kind of like smoke. This at times can be hard to see, especially with different armor colors and the lighting around the environment. Another indicator is you will hear a heartbeat, which is the sound cue for the status effect. Lastly, the target's health will be damaged by 200 points. It will also reduce the maximum stamina of the target to 75% for 5 to 10 seconds. Also, any movement that are not a run, dash, or roll are reduced to a walk. This is why I mentioned that when DS2's bleed is procced, to be aggressive to take advantage of your opponent's slow movement speed and stamina reduction. Especially with players who like to turtle. Many times I've had players block only to get guard broken and riposted because of this. Now that we've gone over how you know when you've procced the status effect, let's take a look at how to make an effective invader bleed build. First, let's look at what you need to put points into to increase your bleed bonus. There are 2 attributes that increase this. The primary one is dexterity, and the secondary attribute that doesn't affect it as much but is still a good idea to put points into is faith, which is great since you can't drink Estus as an invader, but you can bring healing spells with you, like Great Heal for instance. Now let's talk about gear that can boost your bleed bonus. For anyone who's unaware, DS2 has armor sets or pieces that give special bonuses or effects. The 2 gear pieces are the Shadow Gauntlets and the Crest of Blood ring. You can get the Shadow Gauntlets as a drop from the Nimble Shadows in No Man's Wharf or the one in Lost Bastille. Crest of Blood is acquired from joining the Brotherhood of Blood Covenant, accessible after defeating the Executioner's Chariot. However, you will need to at least have 1 token of spite in your inventory, which can be acquired by invading and killing a host, or there's one on your way to the gutter in a wooden chest. Next, let's talk about weapon selection for a bleed build. In Dark Souls 2, there's actually quite a bit of weapon variety to choose from for a bleed build. However, you want to use weapons that already have innate bleed on them, because by infusing it with a bleed stone, it significantly raises the status effect on the weapon compared to a weapon that doesn't have innate bleed. Something that I had found out recently from testing with my boy Mike from Dark Souls Builds and Cosplays is that certain weapons that are infused with a bleed stone can still be buffed with a spell buff. However, you can't use resins on infused weapons, adding more damage output to the weapon. On screen, I'll go over what weapons have bleed on them and what you can and can't do with them. So now that we've gone over what attributes make a bleed build effective, what gear can improve your bleed bonus, and all the weapon variety to choose from, some of you may be asking, well, there's also bleed serum. Why not use that? Well, let's compare both bleed stone and bleed serum. A bleed stone increases the weapon's base bleed by 43% and increases bleed scaling from Dexterity Faith by 82% and increases the bonus granted by Shadow Gauntlets and Crest of Blood by 20%. While Bleed Serum boosts existing bleed buildup by 30% and adds 20 bleed attack value of the right hand weapon for 90 seconds. All in all, Infusion is really a better overall option, especially since some weapons can be spell buffed. Now that I've gone over info for bleed and details for how to make a bleed build, if you would like to see some of these builds in action during invasions against multiple people, I'll put links to all my current bleed builds in the description box of this video. I'll also add 3 more once they are uploaded after this video. So with this information, I hope I've given you insight on how DS2 bleed works and perhaps influenced you to take a bleed build out for a spin and try it out. That's all the information I have for you guys on this video, and as always, I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Peace!